On Talking Trophies, buddies. Air raid!
Let's go. Welcome back to Air Raid, and let's jump over to our last topic of the night. But before we jump over to this topic, make sure you like, subscribe, and share all our videos and all our content we provide. So the last topic is, are we losing our identity on social media?
First thing that comes to mind is I guess before social media, we didn't have a way to express our identity in the same way. So you could argue that we all have a chance to have more of an identity than we ever had before, because we can, curate it and display it and express it and put it out there and in such a unique way that previous generations never had that access to that technology. But again, I guess just the way that social media has become such a massive part of our lives, and it's something that we consume so much of every day. I guess it's, no matter how individual you are and how unique you strive to be, you're inevitably gonna be trying to fit into some kind of mold and emulate the stuff that you consume and the stuff that you engage with on social media. So yeah, I don't know. I think I can't really imagine my life and my identity without social media, because that's just something that's so entrenched in our lives and our identities at the moment. But I guess in a way it does force you to be to fit into a box, I guess. If you think about all the trends of the e-girls and the eshays or whatever, I don't know.
I just rolled some kid for his end ties and that, bruh. Matches my school and that. Eshay.
You have to be one of those things.
Shades, right? Yeah, nah, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm done.
But I think she's right, bro. In all honesty, it's got its pros and cons, but I feel like the way we're moving now, where it's moving more to the cons, because initially, yeah, it was good. You were able to express yourself, maybe, show a bit more personality on the social, by things you post, by things you like, your hobbies. You're able to, post that. So if someone goes on your profile, they're able to get a feel of who you are, get a picture of what kind of person you are and what kind of things you're into, which makes it more easier to kind of connect with other people of the same, circle. But then again, you've got people who, and I would say, people who are not usually, what they call it, not introverts. Introverts, yeah. People that don't usually express themselves. So what happens is they watch other things and they try to emulate or copy a certain type of person in the way they dress, in the way they look, in the way they speak, and it just it takes over their whole image of who they really are. So in that sense, and there's a lot of that right now. There's a lot of people that are idolizing people. Look, you can idolize a person that you look up to, who's successful, you're trying to be like, but to take all these values, say, look, man, I'm going to be like this, I'm going to do this, the way, he does his hair, I'm going to do my hair like that, stuff like that. It's just, you're chipping away at your own individuality and what makes you unique. And I feel like that's important in when it comes to identity, I guess.
I feel like that's always happened though, regardless of social media. If we watch movies, if we didn't have social media, we'd be watching movies and people would be copying what they're doing. I feel like our identities are constantly changing, depending on, I don't think we're born into one whole or one group of people and then we just like that our whole lives. I feel like the people around us, what we consume, what we understand, that changes us and molds our identity into the people we become. So I think social media does maybe put you down a path where you are more likely to be the same as certain people, and a lot of people go become the same type of people and they lose their individuality. But I think that regardless of social media, I think that's always happened. Whatever's popular, people want to fit in, they want to do the same popular things. And in other ways, social media, maybe it even lets us find other avenues. Say if we didn't have social media, we'll just be like the same people in our school. We can't see other paths that we could enjoy. And like, whereas on social media, you can see every part of the world and all the different types of people. So,
Yeah. What about you, Milo?
Yeah, social media. It's a contentious one. Social media, like, in a way, it does make you lose your identity. I 100% agree with that, because, you know, unless you're some sort of a really, really strong person, like up here mentally, you're always gonna wanna fit in with the trend. You're always gonna wanna, be on what's hot at the moment, be it whatever city girls, whatever, like city boys, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever's happening at that particular time, you'll follow. Even though sometimes you might not necessarily agree or have enough knowledge of what that is, you want to fit in because everyone else is doing it. So it does cause a massive loss of a sense of individuality. People, especially nowadays with, like mental health and stuff, and people not really being too confident in themselves. I think social media is a big factor in that. It's a big detriment to like individuals having their own, individuality, essentially. Yeah.
Do you think it's only because of social media though? Like,
I think it existed before, 100%, but I think social media is blown it way out of proportion, because it's so easy to look at what Chris Brown's doing now. All right, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this challenge. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go outside. Or even when what was that Drake song he had? That one. Yeah. You don't even know what that song's about, but you're out here and you're whip dancing to it. You know what I mean?
Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding? Turn the car.
So there's you know what I mean?
I don't know, but it's like
you get me, yeah?
when I'm in primary school, right, and like back then we're not on social media and stuff like that, right? If a few people start bringing like Pokemon cards or marbles to school, the whole school's bringing it to school, and then it's going around everywhere. So it's like, I think it's just a part of human nature to copy others and do that. I don't know if social media is the like direct impact of losing individuality. I feel like that's just, I don't know. I don't know what causes us to just copy others and try to fit in, but I don't know. I think social media amplifies things, but I don't know if it's the cause of us losing.
In regards to what you just said there, for example, how you said with the Pokemon cards, this, that happening in primary schools, where, for example, one kid brings Pokemon cards to school and everyone does. Yeah? So let's just say with social media, that's not really happening at schools anymore as much, like primary schools, as much as it used to, for example, because every kid's got an iPad now. Every kid can see, for example, so what happens when the 10-year-old girl sees, for example, keeping up with the Kardashians, or then you have a guy that's 10 years old from like, for example, from like lives in public housing, watching videos of like Lil Durk and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like gangster video clips.
I'm grown. Stop being your chest. You're making a radio.
At that age, you know what I mean? Like we saw it, we knew about it when we were kids, but we were so inclined on like, because we weren't on phones or anything. We didn't really like, it wasn't there in our faces every day. For example, we were like looking at Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z. I was into my animes, and I was like in my own little world, playing with toys, building Legos and stuff. In comparison to kids now that are on their phone, like literally in 2 clicks, they can be watching something explicit, you know what I mean? And thinking, okay, this is something cool. This is who I want to be. Do you know what I mean? And that shapes, for example, they lose who they could potentially have been, for example, maybe.
But isn't it just taking it down a different path rather than like?
But do you know what I mean? You know what I mean by it? Like, for example, like if I
know exactly what you mean. I agree.
My identity, for example, the culture, the values I've had, and that I grew up with, for example, like, my parents taught me, be good, be this, be that, for example. But then I watch a gangster video clip, and then I don't want to stereotype, but like all of a sudden, like I've seen it happen to young kids, and like, for example, where I live, it's like they get consumed into it. They're like, yo, this is the life I want to live. Like, this is genuinely like, but because they were watching those videos, because they went on Instagram, they saw these videos, because someone shared it on their Instagram, someone that's older than them shared it on their Instagram that they're following, and then they watch that clip, and then that becomes their new identity.
100%.
I would say.
I'm sorry. I feel like it doesn't really change. I feel like it shapes it. So what it does is it kind of shapes your identity or what you want to, in a sense, become, or who you identify yourself as. If I watch a rap video enough times, best believe in a couple of months I'm going to be rocking chains and I'm going to have this bad haircut. Like, you're just going to try to get into that. That's what you watch all the time. Raven's big up to Raven, my guy. he's rocking the jewels. But in saying that, yeah, well, like you're like, have you all heard that saying? The product of your environment, or like, in a sense, it comes under the fact that whatever you watch or whatever you listen to, wherever you're constantly being shown is what you eventually, like, subconsciously you're going to see yourself doing that. I think Kelly has something to say.
Yeah, I would just say that I agree with what we were saying, that like I don't think it's social media that's doing that. I think that's just human nature. Like, if that's a saying, like, you're a product of your environment, then isn't that going to happen regardless of social media? Like, isn't that going to happen wherever you are? Weren't there people that were, engaging in like gangster culture before Instagram? And like kids would, get influenced by the people that they see on music videos, or I don't know, reading books even. Like, you can just, that's the stuff that influences you. I think like social media has definitely a dark side. And there is a whole, I don't know if you guys have watched The Social Dilemma. That's like some scary shit. There's a whole aspect of how much what you consume is being controlled. That's scary. But I don't know that, engaging in things on social media is erasing your identity just, at that, because I think that's just such a human thing to just become the things that you consume. And I really agree with the point of like, I think such a wonderful part of social media is being able to see other things that you never otherwise would have been able to see. Like, especially if we think about how we've used social media during this pandemic, like so many people have had access to other cultures or other interest groups, types of people that they never would have been able to have access to before. So I think it's a weird, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I don't have a conclusive thing to say, but I think there's like pros and cons of both sides. And yeah.
Damien, what were you going to say? You wanted to say something?
Guys, I've been trying to say something for a minute. I'm like, and then everyone, yada, bada, yada. Man, honestly, I think majority of things that are said here have been confused with individuality and influence and self-confidence. Because if you look, individuality is what's true to you, right? It's what you do every day. It's what you feel is right. But like, influence is what comes into your life externally and you take on board for a short term of time, like a specific time in your life. If you look at a lot of our parents, our people that are older, they don't act hood when they're that old, or they don't act that whole, because it's not their individuality. Your individuality is what's true to you. So I think like social media doesn't change like who you are as an individual, but it definitely has a lot of influence and also alters your confidence. I think social media is a big confidence thing. We're always checking other people's pages. We get jealous. We always want to be like, I wish I was that person. We get some envy, we get some greed, but at the same time we get G'd up. We're like, yeah, Ravo's killing it, talking trophies, or we go, this person's killing it. You know what I mean? Like, it has its pros and cons, but I wouldn't go to say that it changes who we are as an individual, because no matter what, if who you are is what shapes you when you grow up, and what you stay true to yourself with, you're going to be that same person. If you were a really comedic kid and you love to joke around, you're going to be the same thing when you're 40 years old. Like, social media will not change that whatsoever. If you're a caring person, social media is not going to change that. It definitely can have an influence or effect, but it will never change it. And so I'm gonna disagree that like social media, no, it doesn't change who you are as an individual.
I got a good example. Let's just say I was a young kid from the area. I've been watching a lot of trap music, whatever, drill, all of that. And then before you know it, I'm with the boys outside in the hood. Which it's a bit quiet. We're just trying to look for some sort of mischief. So this is based off what I'm watching, based off what's being said on the music video, telling rob this guy, do this, da da da, make bands, make racks, da da da, sell drugs. And I started doing that. yes, it is an influence. Naturally, I know this is bad. Yes, I know my parents are obviously never going to say, hey, you know what, son, do what you have to do to get your P's, you know? But what it does is that influences you to make those life decisions. And in a sense, it could be, it could be a positive thing where you can get inspired to become something good. But then there's a lot of that downside where you could be led into a path where you think it's cool to do it, you know? You do it, and then, you know, before you know it, like, you're young, you're behind bars, you know, your life just did a whole 360 only because of what you heard or you saw or some video someone shared to you. Do you know what I mean? Especially as a young, the older we get, I feel like our generation's a bit alright because we, like Raven said, we spent a lot of time growing up with our parents at home, you know. We really got that whole experience from the elders. We were taught things when we were young. We played with like toys, you know, like we did normal kids things. But right now, a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old or 8-year-old wasn't doing the same things we were doing. So they're more susceptible of literally, I don't know, doing whatever that comes to their mind because they didn't have the upbringing the same way we did with our parents telling us, hey, this is right, this is wrong. Right now, they're learning all of that off the internet. So whatever the internet tells them is what they're going to go with, especially when you're young. You're molded in the first few years of your life thinking, hey, this is what I think is cool. This is what I think is right. This guy did it. Look how he's living. I'm trying to live
Even
like
on
that.
the social dilemma, it said something like that. It's like, for example, you know how you were saying on the, Carly, on the social dilemma, it's like your algorithm. It's like, you know how you guys are saying, for example, like watching videos or watching gangster videos. So your algorithm is going to, even if 10-year-old, whatever they watch, what's going to be the next video that's suggested for them on social media? Or when they like a certain drill rapper, for example, what's going to be the next thing that's going to be suggested for them to follow on social media? It's going to be drill music or this, that. And I feel like that can influence it. But in the end of the day, it's all individual. And depending on what influences you. Milo, say something before we wrap it up.
I hear.
Tell us what he said.
But honestly, you know what it is? Both, when you look at it from both angles, it's correct. Like Damien was saying, if you're a comedic kid, if you got jokes, Instagram's not going to take away your jokes. You're still going to be funny, you know, regardless. But Instagram can have an effect whereby more people can see your jokes. So in that way, you might, you know, like crack different jokes to cater for that particular sort of like demographic or to cater for that particular audience. So
to be politically correct.
Yeah. So I think both sides are right. Like individuality would exist regardless of social media. But then social media, it spices it up a bit. That's what I'm saying.
I kind of disagree with that part because, like, if you make jokes and that you're a kid, you think you're funny and all that, you get on social media and no one's laughing at you, everyone's roasting you, right? You can knock your confidence. You might never make jokes for the rest of your life. I think if you're talking about individuality, I kind of think I think social media can take that away, but. Yeah. In terms of like identity, which I was kind of talking about before, I think everything affects your identity, no matter social media, anything. But
fair enough.
Yeah. In terms
also,
of,
sorry, last thing that I'm going to say. Yeah. I think like every generation has opinions about what the younger generation is exposed to. Like right now, we're like social media is bad for kids. Like kids shouldn't have iPads, and I've said that stuff. I fully agree. Like, I think it's insane that my baby siblings are like growing up on iPhones, and that's scary to me. But when I was a kid, you know, my parents had opinions about the things that, you know, we were exposed to as kids, and their parents had opinions of the things, you know, they didn't want their kids playing whatever, like the 8-bit games on computers and stuff. They thought that was like damaging their children. And so, you know, it's this never-ending cycle. Like, we're always going to think that the way that kids are currently being raised isn't as good as the way we were raised. I think that's just like never going to end. So I guess it's just about like making the best of the situation that we have. Like, we all use social media, and we have to be responsible with how our kids are going to use that, because it's inevitable. It's the way the world is headed. So we have to make sure that it doesn't harm them.